Hello, my name is Leslie Sullivan, and today we will be discussing and I will be presenting on the Kent State shooting. But before we can discuss how this event has impacted what we know as modern day higher education, we must first know the basics. So here we go. The Kent State shooting is also known as the May 4th Massacre or the Kent State Massacre. It involved the shooting of unarmed college students by the Ohio National Guard on May 4th of 1970. Obviously, with any type of crisis such as the Kent State shooting, the Virginia Tech shooting, each account that you find when you're searching and doing research, every account's going to be slightly different. So some of the variations that I found are different, but they all have the same conclusion that National Guardsmen fired off approximately 67 rounds over a period of only 13 seconds. This did kill 4 students and wounded 9 others, one of whom suffered permanent paralysis. The students that were involved in the Kent State shooting had been protesting the Cambodian campaign for about the last 4 days. So approximately beginning on May 1st, their protests started, and as you can imagine, they quickly escalated. The original protest was of the Vietnam War. However, the students would eventually begin to protest the National Guard's occupation of Kent State University. Several accounts do estimate that leading up to the lunchtime hour when the shooting happened, there was approximately 2,000 to 3,000 students that obviously became increasingly hostile to watching the National Guardsmen take over their campus center. A few of the students that were shot actively were participating in the protest, while unfortunately some of the others were simply walking by or were just bystanders hanging out, observing from a distance. Obviously, anytime this happens, a campus shooting, it's tragic. But they have allowed other universities and institutions, though we haven't been affected at Sam Houston State, we have learned from other institutions on how to create and implement a plan of action. So that kind of brings us to my next point on how does this affect higher education today. Like I said, the events are tragic, but it has allowed us as an institution to adequately prepare, plan, implement, and disperse a plan of action should we ever experience an active shooter on our campus. This has also allowed our counseling center to develop techniques and create services that can adequately serve the needs of college students, faculty, and staff should we experience an active shooter on our campus, or should we have college students, faculty, or staff that are affected by a shooting at another location. Should it be a family member, a spouse, a friend, something of that nature. It's also allowed our educators to understand that their institutions, even if they aren't experiencing an immediate crisis situation on their campus, our campuses are shaped by the events of this magnitude. Like I said, even if we aren't directly experiencing them on our campus at one time or another. One of the positive things that I think how this has affected higher education today is that seeing the outcome of the tragedy and the response of the faculty that were involved at the Kent State shooting, they rose together. Obviously, they were united to meet the challenge of serving students in a time of crisis. So I think as faculty and staff, we can learn from that on how to come together as one unit when we face a crisis like this, and not even just an active shooter, but any type of other crisis that our institution might face. We can all come together as one. Faculty members put forth a great effort to allow students to continue their studies in non-traditional ways in order to finish their coursework. So though they had such a tragic experience, they allowed their students to finish the coursework. But I think the biggest thing that we can take away from this is that thinking about the Kent State shootings, they can help our educators work with different groups as they negotiate cultural conflict and allow students to learn the way they want to avoid these types of hostile situations. And with that, here are my references.